Should she die? Probably. But this is One Piece, and even in an alternate timeline, it's hard to imagine anyone dying from any injury, ever.
Good argument somehow. I'm still shocked Ace actually did. I found a troll video. And this video, pretty straightforward. A little old, but straightforward, and I'm curious about it. So why not let it fly? This guy asked the question, how far do the Straw Hats get without this? I'm assuming the rules are as follows. They go on the adventure, but they just tell Usopp to fuck off. They keep moving forward, recruit everybody that they would be able to recruit. I'm not gonna lie. The peak of how far they go, without a doubt, Dressrosa, they're dead. Without a doubt, that is the farthest they go. People fair to forget, there was an entire moment dedicated to, oh shit, if Usopp doesn't land this shot, yeah, Luffy's cooked and then we forget him, meaning Luffy and Law, I'm sorry, are cooked, meaning we also forget they existed, meaning you lost your two strongest powerhouses and you forgot they exist. You're done.
God Usopp doesn't join up with Luffy. There's no coward with a heart of gold on the Straw Hat crew. Everything up to Luffy arriving at Syrup Village is the same. They defeat Captain Kuro, but Usopp stays behind with Kaya.
Right.
Luffy, Nami, and Zoro sail away with the Going Merry as a gift. How does the story play out from there? Welp, there is one.
Yeah, he's following the rules that I thought it would be, which is, yo, basically we just tell Usopp to fuck off after we go to Syrup Village. I forgot what it was called.
Surprising change that occurs immediately. Without Usopp, the crew never meets Sanji. Remember, it's because of Usopp and Luffy practicing with the Merry's cannons that they run into Zoro's bounty hunter friends, who tell the Straw Hats about Baratie. Without this chance encounter...
Well, if we're doing that, then these niggas don't make it that far at all. That's a game changer. Now, there's two sides to this story, because you'll have the people that are like, well, technically true, but then you'll have the people that will be like, but the people finding Zoro would just find Zoro at some point, but like between Syrup Village and wherever the fuck, right? So that's interesting. For the most part, though, this is correct. So I think I'd let this slide. But there's a world, considering they were at least in the proximity of the Straw Hats, that they would inevitably collide with them anyway. But for the sake of his video, fuck it. Yeah, no Sanji. No Usopp meeting no Sanji is a game changer.
They have no reason to head to the restaurant. Also, their Jolly Roger would look like this. Now, you could say that without Usopp there to goof around with, Nami and Zoro would have been able to pin Luffy down about his plan to assemble a crew. A cook would be one of the first things that comes up. However, neither Zoro, Nami, or Luffy seem to have any prior knowledge about Baratie. So this is where our first generous pivot comes in.
Shit, it just hit me. I was locked in and it just hit me. Without Sanji, fuck losing your third, if not second best fighter. Third. But who makes your food? Oh God, it can't be Chef Luffy, please. It has to be Nami or Zoro at this point. Because Chef Luffy is just, oh God. Yeah, it's probably Nami. Zoro, gun to your head, would just rob people more. Because I mean, Zoro gets lost every fucking where. At some point, niggas gonna lose recipes. So yeah, it gotta be Nami. Because Zoro's just gonna have everybody drunk. Luffy's gonna eat everything before he even serves it. So yeah, it gotta be Nami. Nami would charge the plate. Hey, that's crazy. That's crazy.
What does that mean? I'm glad you asked. To keep this thought experiment fun and not veer off into irresponsible fan fiction, there is one rule I will try to stick by in this video. I'm going with a very generous reinterpretation of events. I want to try my best to realistically lay out how the narrative would unfold without Usopp. How long can the story Oda set in motion realistically continue within the same overall structure without one of the original Straw Hats?
Right.
Since there are so many variables in this massive story, there will be pivotal points where things can go more than one way, and I'll continue on with the most reasonable direction that stays as close to the original story as possible. Essentially,
yeah, I'm glad he's doing that, and I'm glad he's announcing that, because that's like what scares me off of doing what ifs, because I'm a part-time perfectionist, and no matter what, if you change the story, someone can interpret things as either hyper literally, or they can change it to where they're adapting to the new character that you introduced because you've changed pivotal plot points, whether you like to or not. So in this situation, like I said earlier in the video, for example, yeah, you could argue that they just never meet Sanji, but then you could also argue, well, them niggas was right at the rock over there. Not saying it was the closest rock, but they were right at the rock over there. Who's to say they don't just at some point catch up on the next island and then, shit, we need to find somebody, Sanji, ooh, bang, bang. So yeah, I like this. Establish right now that there's multiple decisions. Comment below, yap below which decision you think would ultimately happen, but he's just gonna choose the best one. Good shit.
These are where more what-if scenarios could spin out of this what if. For example, the first generous pivot is that the crew somehow hears about Baratier in their search for a cook. I don't think that's implausible, and the other option is a version of events without Usopp and Sanji that takes the Straw Hats God knows where, which is too disconnected from the original story and doesn't really jive with this exercise. So at this point, the adventure continues similarly enough. Don Krieg, Mihawk, Nami stealing the Mary, Sanji joining the crew. The big difference moving on without Usopp is that an injured Zoro couldn't chase after Nami alone, and there isn't even a hint about Arlong since the bounty boys wouldn't have been around. You see how tricky this is already? With this tiny dinghy and no navigator, it would be logical for the crew to head to shore. It's not like we have a detailed map of every town in One Piece, but since Arlong...
That's a good point. Even if you give them Sanji, that's a good point. Because Nami does skirt off on niggas without leaving a trace, and they just find her. So the question is, would Zoro be able to find her? Now, Zoro is, at one point, the pirate hunter Zoro. So it's not, and we know what happens to him in part 2 and shit, but it's not unfathomable that they would find her regardless. But it is possible that without Usopp, you just don't have 3 Straw Hats already. You know what I mean? We would either at that point, and again, I know it sounds crazy because Zoro gets lost all the time now, but earlier on, that wasn't his gimmick necessarily, I want to say. Earlier on, they didn't really have that gimmick with Zoro. So at that point, we're saying Zoro would either just naturally find Nami, given context, or someone would help them find Nami, or that he would just find Arlong, because he's still a pirate hunter. But then it's like, why would he look for Arlong specifically? Maybe he could connect the dots or some shit. Like, they would have to work around it, but I think it's possible. But there's a real strong reality, and I think he might even do it where without Usopp, you don't even have half the Straw Hats.
Arlong Park isn't too far from Baratier. It's reasonable to assume the crew eventually gets there. But first, it's likely they touch down somewhere closer. Maybe take a day for Zoro to recover from his wounds before pressing onward. Hell, maybe Zoro and Sanji chilling together on this initial journey and not immediately fighting over whether or not to kill Nami would have lowered the temperature on their tumultuous relationship. It's at this pit stop that they hear rumors about a nearby town ruled over by a ruthless fish person, which of course will capture Luffy's attention. A crew consisting just of the monster trio feels like it inevitably has to come into contact with the most powerful pirate around.
Well, so he's still saying Sanji would go with them, which I guess does make a bit of sense if they end up at Sanji's restaurant regardless. So yeah, this is fine. So they don't lose Sanji here, because Sanji would naturally join them, I believe. I don't think Sanji it would be out of character, especially with this trio going on this adventure, for Luffy to just not ask Sanji to stay with the crew and Sanji to also just say no. Now, Sanji might have them go all the way back, and then he'll have that scene where he cries to Unk and shit, but then he would just go. It'd be really weird if they essentially all go to Arlong Park and save Nami, and then Sanji's like, yeah, now take me back, and stays back.
Especially given how close by he is. When they arrive, the specifics would be altered, but the end result and major moments of Arlong Park would remain the same. Also, the fight would go even easier than the original with a more healed Zoro. Just to keep things tidy, it's reasonable to say all of this could have happened within the same time period as the original story. Luffy worked as chore boy for 2 days in the manga continuity, plus there's a good deal of immeasurable travel time. Do whatever math you need to. Trust me, things are just gonna be easier if we keep the timing the same, since—
Yeah, because instead of Usopp fighting the fish squillium-looking guy, you just have healthy Zoro 1v2. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
90% of major events in this story rely on being in the right place at the right time. You could say that's an ongoing, generous pivot for this exercise, but let's just acknowledge that there is an alternate version of events called the wrong place, wrong timeline, where nothing fun or interesting happens ever. With things back on track, the crew decides to head to the Grand Line. They make their pit stop at Logtown with no deviations, then ride up Reverse Mountain. It's hard to imagine any aspect of Whiskey Peak changing, since Usopp is drunk and asleep most of the time. So we proceed to Little Garden, a major arc for Usopp's character that would have likely played out a lot smoother without him around. When the crew arrives, Luffy, Vivi, and Karu head off together, Zoro and Sanji leave to hunt, and Nami and Usopp stay with the ship. Without Usopp around, Sanji is staying behind with Nami.
Right.
One more point to Zoro and Sanji's rivalry being much lesser in the Usopp-free timeline. Sanji and Nami would still get taken to speak with Brogy.
He really thinks that rivalry would be lesser? I don't think so. I think those are two people that would just like, I'm not saying that he's saying it doesn't exist, but I think those are two people that at some point, the stronger they get, would just inevitably reach that ceiling that is there. Maybe initially they start off slower. I could even see that. But at some point, them niggas gonna be competitive about each other. I think it'll be relatively the same, at best a half step. Not even half, at best a 10th step lower. I think it'd be the same, because especially once bounty updates start coming through, and it'll be around the same. It'll be around the same.
But the big change comes when Usopp abandons Nami on the way back to the ship. There's zero chance Sanji ever leaves Nami behind,
right?
And just like Usopp, he isn't on Baroque Works' radar yet. He'd actually be able to protect Nami from being captured, which means the only two people on the wax cake would be Zoro and Vivi, leaving Sanji, Nami.
My glorious king? Fucking Vivi. Do we just sacrifice my glorious king for Vivi here? I gotta think about this. Do we just sacrifice my glorious king for Vivi to die? How can we save Zoro, but Vivi still turns into wax? Like a fucking stop fighting, statue of stop fighting. How do we get a statue of stop fighting, but Zoro's alive? Maybe we write it as Zoro was able to withstand suffocation a bit longer? BV.
Karu and Luffy to save them. Ultimately, the one key factor that's up in the air is the eternal pose to Alabasta. Since Sanji doesn't go off on his own to Mr. Three's hut, he won't encounter the Unluckies. However, the Unluckies would presumably go looking for Mr. Three. If the Straw Hats or Giants take out the Unluckies, then bingo, they get the eternal pose to Alabasta and can boogie off the island.
Right.
If they don't, we branch off into a drastically different timeline, where either the Straw Hats are forced to stay on Little Garden for a year, they sail off without any direction, which could mean death, or Crocodile sends forces to take them out, which actually enables their escape. For the sake of this exercise, let's say the Unluckies get taken down and the Straw Hats are still able to leave using the Eternal Pose.
That's just, you've written two ways that they would inevitably be able to leave versus one where they just fuck off and get lost. Let's go with the more fun one.
From Island, Usopp is so superfluous that his name doesn't even appear once in the fandom page for this arc. Vivi could hang out with Dalton on her own. Nothing major changes about the plot without Usopp. Onto Alabasta. Crocodile would still send Mr. 2 to check in on / kill Mr. 3, so the Straw Hats would still meet Precious Banchan. That scene and everything leading up to the arrival at Nanohana would go the same.
So I thought I would hate that guy. That's like easily one of the most solid characters in anime history. I can't lie. That guy's a real nigga. He's a real nigga to the core. Like, I'm not saying he's cooler than a Levi, cooler than a Nart, none of that stuff, but we just talking about being a day one solid motherfucker. That's one of the realest niggas in fiction, bro.
Except for one key difference. Captain Smoker.
He's gay?
The only reason Smoker connects the Straw Hats to Baroque Works and Vivi is his interception of the Sanji and Crocodile call. Smoker already has a Baroque Works agent in hand at the time, so maybe he'd eventually piece this information together, but he certainly wouldn't have beaten them to Nanohana, which means Luffy's reunion with Ace would have lacked a marine chase. It's a coin flip whether or not Smoker would have figured out something was going on with Crocodile and gone to Rain Base to check it out. For the sake of simplicity, let's keep Smoker's presence in Rain Base within our primary timeline.
Right.
But there's a branch where Smoker doesn't show up, which would be a major disaster for everybody. Long story short, Robin dies underground with the king. This means things play out largely the same up until the battle at Alabarna. The plan to split up.
Damn, I might agree with that. As generous as I'm being to the Straw Hats here, because I hate when what ifs are just, okay, everyone dies one by one. That's probably the most genuine, true one. Yeah, no Smoker means Robin is with the woo. For sure. Unless you go Ultra Super Lord Super Saiyan Luffy. But yeah, Robin is dead. Damn, there's really no way out of that. Robin definitely would die. You would literally have to rewrite Robin as a character and her motivations just to tell me she wouldn't die. She's definitely dead. Damn. He just glossed over the fact, but yeah, Nico Robin's definitely dead.
Doesn't show up,
She's
which would be
definitely
a major disaster for everybody. Long story short, Robin dies underground with the king. This means things play out largely the same up until the battle at Alabasta. The plan to split up the Baroque Works agents would still need to go down. However, with one less person, the matchups would be slightly different.
So they might die. They might die here. Cause how does Luffy beat Crocodile? Unless I'm confusing islands. Yeah, how does Luffy beat Crocodile without Robin? Cause Robin's the one that gets him out of that ditch or whatever. Unless we've already made it past that point. I think we've made it past that point, to be fair. Oh, they're definitely on a timeline now. No Nico, Robin basically like alley-oops where the next arc goes.
He would still take Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger. Chopper and Sanji would take Miss Merry Christmas and Mr. 4, whereas Lashes would be stuck with Mr. 2 at first. I'm under the impression that Sanji and Chopper would be able to handle Mr. 4 and Miss Merry Christmas a bit quicker, albeit less manly and dramatic than Usopp and Chopper. Yes. Sanji can get Chopper to beat up Miss Merry Christmas if that'll be a problem for him. Should just involve redirecting some explosives her way. Right. Meanwhile, Mr. 2 would try to trick Vivi disguised as someone else this time, but he'd still lack the X under his bandage, and Vivi would be rescued by a slightly tuckered out Sanji and Chopper, putting in extra work and bringing down 3 agents between them. Despite Usopp's direct involvement in those situations, things would have worked out relatively the same.
Okay.
However, Nami is where things break down. Without Usopp designing the climb attack, she'd be forced to use a more standard weapon, likely a
Oh my fucking God, she's dead. Oh my fucking God, Nami's dead. You can't rewrite that. You can't. What are you gonna do? Just have Nami know what hockey is this early in the series and teach her how to, You're gonna feed her a fucking devil fruit? Nami is grits. Unless you tell me that Nami would go to Zoro to try to become a swordswoman, this is how generous you have to be. You have to convince me that Nami would be hanging with Sanji and Zoro and pick one of them two to teach them one of their fighting styles, and she gets good at it that fast. She's grits. She could get a devil fruit. Oh yeah, you know, you're just fine. There's a whole different devil fruit that they didn't have at this point. Yeah, just give it to Nami. That's what I'm saying. Like, unless you just literally go, team, I want Nami to live, your only way out of this is to convince somebody that within these arcs, she could train to the level of a swordswoman or a level of whatever the fuck kick jutsu shit that Sanji has, to where she would be able to win the fight. And neither of them are real.
A pistol and or sword. Despite this, she wouldn't sit back and do nothing while the others fought. Hell, maybe Nami would put up a better fight from the jump, since at least she knows how average weapons work. However, it's Nami's inexperience, vulnerability, and novelty gag weapon that kept Miss Doublefinger at ease, and ultimately opened up a window of opportunity for Nami's unexpected finisher. With a pistol, or sword, or massive axe, Nami loses her fight.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad he did the fanfic shit.
Or sword, or massive.
I'm glad he did this, because literally, outside of the slight goon here, literally, if Nami showed up looking like a warrior or looking like somebody who knew what combat was, she's just not strong enough. She's gonna go down.
The axe. Nami loses her fight. She gets riddled with spikes and suffers serious injuries. Should she die? Probably, but this is One Piece, and even in an alternate timeline, it's hard to imagine anyone dying from any injury, ever.
Fair enough. It's a good argument somehow. That's genuinely a fantastic argument. I'm still shocked Ace actually did. You know what I mean? Like, there's a part of me that thinks Ace is out there somewhere. He's just ready to come back. Like, there's this 2% odds. Pedro, that nigga dead. Now Pedro's dead. That nigga's dead. Yo, that's so crazy to me, man. That's genuinely another point on how Nami survives. The fact that she should be dead, but we're just gonna say she's not. Just because it's One Piece. Makes sense. I would kill her here, though.
Luckily, the Strawhats happen to have a magic reindeer doctor, so Nami would eventually be fine, but that takes both Nami and Chopper off the board for the rest of the battle. Vivi's confrontation with Crocodile and subsequent rescue by Luffy all go unchanged. Instead of reuniting as the whole crew, it's just Sanji and Zoro who meet up with them. Luffy still goes to handle Crocodile on his own, leaving the remaining 3 to find the bomb. However...
Actually does change some stuff, though, because... with Nami out of commission, Nami was the one that was trying to get them to sympathize with Vivi, unfortunately. And Vivi was the whole stop fighting. So in this timeline, Zoro and Sanji, granted not at 100%, just start saying fuck it and they start beating up random NPCs. Which I don't know what that entails for the future of the city, but that's definitely what happens. For sure. Unless I'm misremembering something, chat. I'm pretty sure it was Nami, Vivi, Zoro, Sanji. That Zoro and Sanji were fighting to defend themselves, but they weren't like attacking people. They weren't like trying to like neutralize the situation. They were just trying to defend themselves and stall for time. But Nami was like, yo, chill, bro. Like, look at Vivi. She's trying to woo, woo, bang, bang. But in this timeline, Nami's out of there. They are 100% just going to try to squad wipe.
With Miss Doublefinger still on the loose, she would ultimately confront them, only to learn about the bomb herself. Now knowing her superior had no problem letting her or her comrades die, she'd agree to help for her own purposes. Ultimately, with her assistance, Sanji and Zoro would be able to launch Vivi up the clock tower to stop the bomb in time. When they think all hope is lost, just before Pell arrives, Miss Doublefinger would book it right out of the story. Then, really, the rest of Alabasta plays out just as it did. Nami suffered far more, but that would strengthen her resolve for future conflicts. Robin still joins the crew, and there's no reason
And she dead? I thought this was the easiest one, that Robin dies. I thought this was the one that like nobody debates. Chat, are we stupid? Am I stupid? Do I need to rewatch more One Piece than I thought I did? Yeah, wouldn't she die? If Smoker doesn't come, she just says fucking and dies. He made a mistake. Did we mishear something? We had to have misheard something. I thought, let me read the comments. We must have missed something because nobody in the comments is calling this out. I'm just convinced Robin's dead. Fuck it, Robin isn't dead anymore, but I'm convinced. He said Smoker comes out anyway. It was a what if. Oh, you're right. He did say, now if Smoker doesn't show up, everything changes. Long story short, he did say that. Hold on, I'm at 929. Hold on, I'll show you. I do remember he said something like that. Hold on.
Hand at the time, so maybe he'd eventually piece this information together, but he certainly wouldn't have beaten them to Nanohana, which means Luffy's reunion with Ace would have lacked a marine chase. It's a coin flip whether or not Smoker would have figured out something was going on with Crocodile and gone to Rain Base to check it out. For the sake of simplicity, let's keep Smoker's presence in Rain Base within our primary timeline, but there's a branch where Smoker doesn't show up.
Okay, we missed it. Okay, we did miss it. Can't confirm. Apologies, we did miss it. There's a time, yeah, he said it's a coin flip. There's a timeline where so okay, cool. Cause I was like, huh? All right, bet. So Smoker did show up, meaning the Strawhats get the marine chase, all that. Oh, cool. We're good. But he said there is a timeline where Smoker doesn't show up, meaning Nico Robin is dead for sure. Okay, cool. I was about to say, yeah, no, I thought that was like the undisagreeable thing that, yeah, without it, yeah. Okay, cool. We're good. Let's go.
Flex. Robin still joins the crew, and there's no reason any events on Jaya or the Sky Island play out much differently if Usopp isn't around. The ordeal of balls would have been about the same, and after that, he's unconscious pretty much until the end. Alongside Sanji too, so it's not like that unconscious crewmate plot point changes. Usopp's most useful feat in this arc is providing the grapple hook to travel up the arc maxim and save Nami. However, Nami's able to dodge Eneru's attacks fairly easily when Usopp is there. Really, all he does is buy her time to get to the waiver, but then she gets held up trying to rescue him, so it's a wash. Based on my reading of the scene, it's reasonable to assume Nami could have escaped that situation on her own, even without her climb attack, especially if she had this newfound resilience following Alabasta. The one thing that does change without Usopp is
so physically speaking, if you don't kill Nami, Nami becomes like low-key a demon at some point. Nami is on pace to become a demon at some point. Don't get me wrong. And Nero is freaking out. Let me be clear. I am not power scaling Nami to be able to dodge these attacks. I'm not personally doing it. I'm not personally doing it. Let me be clear. I'm not power scaling Nami to do that. What I am doing is saying, theoretically, you have a Nami that's supposed to be taken more seriously, and in this case, she's just like, can't do it. So she probably not dodges them, but she's probably taken a bit more seriously in terms of her ability to escape, given her background and her new physical capabilities, because she just got fucking doxed in an arc, and she's been practicing either with guns or swords or some shit. So yeah, she's like not as pussy in this verse.
That Sanji never gets this badass
She's not
scene,
as pussy in this verse.
nor does he sabotage the arc Maxim. However, that ultimately doesn't affect anything anyway. Eneru just views it as a minor annoyance, saying that all the jet dials he has makes the problem irrelevant. So, nothing major about the Sky Island saga changes without Usopp. Which of course brings us to Long Ring Long Land. Again, I hate to keep saying this, but Usopp's presence doesn't matter to this arc either. Swap him out with anyone for the first game, and they'll still lose since Foxy cheats. For the rest of the Davy back fight, Usopp has no role. Although, Luffy may not have sported that godly afro, and that would be a war crime. Even when out-
No boxer. First things first, we'll talk about you in a second. But no Afro Luffy in that arc. That might have been a Sage quitter. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, there's a timeline where I say I gotta leave One Piece on this one. That was horrible. Hey, there's a timeline where we're not doing this video. Cause absolutely not. Not with no Afro Luffy? The fuck am I watching that shit for?
Kiji shows up, Usopp participates in protecting Robin from being shattered, but a generous reimagining of these events would just place Nami or Chopper in his stead. Correct. Water 7 is where things really begin to diverge. First up, the gold. If it's just Nami and Luffy heading into town, they'd go to meet Iceberg first, which was Nami's original plan, before Usopp changed her mind. So not only do the Straw Hats not lose their money, but it's also likely they never have a serious conflict with the Frankie family. If Luffy and Nami talk to the shipwrights first, they'd either take the gold to exchange it themselves, or would arrange protection for the Straw Hats during the exchange. At the very least, they'd give them a heads up. Although the Frankie family would still make their failed attempt to attack Zoro on the Merry, that's the last we'd see of them for some time. Which means there's no dramatic showdown at the Frankie family house. Frankie wouldn't have any reason to—
That scene, I'm just gonna, this video is kind of a dedication to, not too much on Usopp. And a lot of time in this video, he said Usopp hasn't mattered, regrettingly. But just even going through some of these, this is one of them scenes where I'm just like, bruh, I don't understand how you niggas claim to be Straw Hats, but don't fuck with Usopp. This was like, again, what top tier Usopp moment in the sense that you knew there was no way he was solo squatting the fucking Frankie house. But, bruh, he tried, bruh. And I know that sounds ass, but like, he really did go in there, get the fuck beat out of him, thrown out of the house, and it's just a corpse outside. He fucking tried, bro.
At the Frankie family house, Frankie wouldn't have any reason to seek revenge on the Straw Hats, and critically, he wouldn't order his special lumber with their stolen money. By default, the fantastic Luffy versus Usopp duel doesn't happen. Luffy and Nami
So we lose one of the realest moments in the series, and then immediately lose one of my favorite fights in the series. Again, man, this is, you're asking for a lot. What are you gonna do? Have Nami versus Luffy instead? But they don't have the same motivations. That would just be literally trying to stitch threads to keep that alternate timeline version of Sage fucking adoring One Piece. So Luffy is still gonna be this, like, as someone in chat mentioned, Luffy's still gonna be this, like, same mentally status captain. Not saying Luffy gets smart at any point in time. Oh my God. Not saying Luffy gets smart at any point in time in One Piece. He's a fucking moron. But Luffy at that point needed that. There's a reason why people talk about Zoro's lines in that fight. Luffy needed to fight Usopp in that moment. And if you don't have that happen, if you don't have a crewmate that will detest Luffy to the point where he says, fuck the Straw Hats, if you don't have any of that, hell nah. Hell nah, man. That's a whole different Luffy. There's an more immature, less thoughtful Luffy out there that probably just gets cooked. So now I don't even think they make it a Dressrosa. Water 7 is where I was like, maybe they don't make it there, or maybe they ultimately get cooked at Enies Lobby. But definitely no way out. But yeah, this is bad.
He would simply return to the crew with sad news about the Mary and would get caught up in the CP9 and Robin conspiracy all the same. From here, the arc is essentially a condensed Water 7, just focusing on the Mary and Robin. Usopp and Frankie are so central to this arc in my mind, but they are off in their own pockets with little impact on the overall plot. By the end, Frankie would still be captured by CP9 and brought aboard the sea train, where he'd be rescued by Sanji in exchange for his help. The pair would fight their way up to Robin without the baggage of any prior conflict.
Okay.
Unfortunately, even Soga King wouldn't show up at this point, since he's Usopp's friend. He doesn't
I seen some niggas saying no Sniper King, and I'm just thinking they're peons they're thinking they're the same person. But that's a good point. He is Usopp's friend turned rival. You don't get one of the best rivalries in fiction, one of the best off-screen rivalries in all of fiction. Yeah, I wouldn't watch One Piece.
know anyone else here. Why would he show up? Without Soga King and Usopp's involvement, Enies Lobby becomes a trickier beast than it already was. Lacking the deep connection to Dory and Brogy, there's no convincing the giants guarding Enies Lobby to defect, which will keep the Frankie family and Gali La crews busier during the invasion. And of course, there isn't the dramatic burning of the world government flag, but, you know, the flag wasn't what put them on the government shit list. Now, we come
It did a lot for it, though.
To the Straw Hat showdowns with CP9. If anything, not having Soga King around would have evened out the matchups. There's no reason to assume any of these play out differently. Soga King won't handcuff himself to Zoro after he crashes through the ceiling with Kaku. It's hard to imagine this even being a problem for Zoro, since Kaku and Jabra seem to be of the Dragon Ball mindset of not allowing anyone to interfere in their fight. Eventually, Jabra does want to wrap things up, but by that point, Sanji shows up to take him on. Even the Nami fight, which would be severely changed due to her never having a Climax act, would still go down in a fairly similar way, because Nami would have been collecting and tinkering with dials from Sky Island. Her character development is different in this timeline, plus she is intelligent enough to recognize an unconventional tool and capitalize on it. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. So you're not gonna die with this sword style, kick style Nami, but instead she discovers dials and she makes those her thing. That's interesting. I'm with it.
How she'd do it specifically, but I have faith that she'd overcome Kefla and redeem her combat failure in Alabasta.
Now maybe this is a one-time thing though, because how much longer are dials gonna be like relevant? I don't know, but for this one-time altercation, I'm with it.
Afterwards, the next major plot point involving Soga King is sniping Spandam and shooting over the keys to free Robin. Honestly, not that important. Frankie shows up to snatch Robin from Spandam, so he wouldn't get the keys in this situation, but it doesn't take long for the others to reunite with them, and they could unlock Robin's cuffs. The real defining moment of Usopp's role in Enies Lobby comes during Luffy's fight with Rob Lucci. Straight up, Luffy doesn't win without Usopp here. Let's not get things twisted. The Strawhats may have made it this far without Usopp, but that doesn't mean something wasn't missing from the crew. Usopp and Luffy have a special friendship, and that moment where Usopp berates and guilts Luffy into getting up and finishing the fight could have only been delivered by him. Chopper was unable to move, Sanji disappeared, and the rest were busy fighting. It's
Damn. Yeah, the answer is Water 7. I agree. I was saying Water 7 or Dressrosa, and that's true. And I guess like this is implying like you would have to make up again a Like again, like Usopp versus Luffy makes this work even more for Luffy. You even take away that moment, and that hypothetical version of Usopp might not be able to get it done. You know what I'm saying? That's tough. That's tough.
Usopp, who realizes Luffy went down. It's Usopp who distracts Lucci. It's Usopp who takes advantage of his own weakness to motivate Luffy to protect him. Now, is it possible that Luffy could have gotten the will to keep going on his own? Maybe, but he was down, fully at the mercy of Lucci. Usopp represented the physical embodiment of the crew Luffy was fighting to keep safe from people like Lucci. His presence here was invaluable to Luffy's motivation to get up and finish the fight.
I agree.
Ultimately, without Usopp, the Straw Hats' journey ends right here. And I kind of think that's the perfect place, don't you? I mean, let's say Luffy did get through this. Does the Mary possess a strong enough connection with an Usoppless crew that she would become sentient? I don't know.
The Mary doesn't get the Mick fruit! No!
Maybe. Then when the crew gets to Thriller Bark, forget about it. They'll be toasted by Perona's powers without Usopp around anyway. Plus, the Straw Hats wouldn't get the 1,000 Sunny without Frankie's purchase of that special wood.
Oh shit, yeah, Thriller Bark. You know, I hate Thriller Bark so much, that's definitely the answer though. Fuck. Yeah, you disagree with that? What do you disagree with? The fact that they lose at Water 7? Cause I ain't gonna lie, that's a damn good reason why they would lose at Water 7. I don't know, I don't know how you disagree with that. Oh, the Mary. How? Usopp was the one. Usopp was the one that like cared for the Mary the most at that point until Frankie. So for sure, you disagree. Y'all think Usopp wasn't the one that cared about the Mary the most? His whole, all right, no, we didn't watch the same show.
And it's far more dubious Frankie even joins the crew
I don't even
without
know
his
how to argue
relationship
that. I
to
thought that was just an objective
So even if
truth.
this isn't the exact moment you think the crew would get toasted,
I don't even know how do I start that argument. I don't even know how I combat that argument. Usopp didn't care for the Mary the most. Usopp didn't try to repair the Mary. Usopp wasn't the one that found Frankie because he was crashing out over the Mary. Usopp didn't fight Luffy over the Mary. All these other things. Yeah, I don't see that at all. I don't see that at all. I think this is officially, and granted we made it to the end of the video, but this is the part of the video that I was projecting where now chat and or the comment section is gonna try to do everything so their favorite Straw Hats don't lose. Cause I don't see how the fuck you're telling me that Mary is just deep rooted with fucking Zoro or Sanji or Nami when none of them had that interest. And they all loved the Mary, but not nearly as much as Usopp. To the point of that, and you're gonna tell me that Frankie would build them the ship in time, and you're gonna tell me that Luffy gets up and defeats Lucci, and you're gonna tell me they somehow get through Thriller Park, and you're gonna tell me they also somehow get through, they're dead, bro.
Posted.
They're
It's definitely around this time that things become completely different. Let me know what you think. Was I too generous with my interpretation of events? Do you think the crew would last longer without Usopp? Did I
Fuck no. Yeah, Thriller Bark, again, the most important glaze that you could give to the Straw Hats to say how far they get. The highest glaze you could do, if you want to think that somehow they defeat Ghost Bitch, is fucking Dressrosa. I've said that the entire time. But I completely forgot about Ghost Girl, forgot her fucking name. She does wipe them unironically, and it's kind of sad. And yeah, they definitely don't make it past Thriller Bark, to be very clear. So then the question is Water 7, which chat's debating somehow. And yeah, that ain't it. None of them arguments are that. Perona, oh, her name Perona, yeah. She like unironically solos. Because the whole thing was she doesn't solo Usopp. So yeah, no, that's it. They might not make it to Water 7 because of ship damage. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how the fuck we're getting this Usopp doesn't matter to the Mary shit going on. I don't know. I mean, I got a chat. My chat do be chatting, but yeah, I don't know how we're getting that. That's 100% chat just chatting to me. Let's read some comments. You're forgetting the reason the Mary lasted as long as it did was because many of the patches and fixer-ups Usopp did on the prior event. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't know how the chat is at this point, but okay. It really does fuck me up that Perona genuinely would solo this. It's so fucked that it's true. Because they literally wrote it as she won, but oh shit, Usopp's good. How is Usopp good? Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Whole crew defeated by Perona. Luffy and Law turned into toys by Sugar. Yeah, it's over. These niggas are dead. I'm not gonna keep reading that because he might spoil, but yeah, no. Aren't we forgetting that after Alabasta, the Strawhats were surrounded, and the only reason they could escape the surroundment was because Usopp destroyed 2 Navy ships with 1 cannonball? That's tough. Debating when you can't talk is an automatic L. That's scapegoat. You haven't presented your argument well. That's scapegoat. You ain't presented your argument well, buddy. But you can talk. Join the Discord. I'll even let you get your chance to get your shit off. But you haven't presented your argument well at all. Join Discord though. I'll let you say whatever you gotta say. Hold on. Let me join this right here. But that's weak. Because if I go through what you've typed, let me see. What's your name? Damn, wait, your name all over the place. Okay, there we go. Boom. Your argument for how is now the Mary point. Now he carried the moat, but I think the Mary still had a strong connection with them all. Yeah. So they had a strong connect. So you think the Mary's connection with Nami, no Usopp, Nami, Luffy, Zoro, and what's his name? Nami, Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy was strong enough. Mind you, none of them are repairing the ship. None of them are just glazing the Mary left and right all the fucking time. Usopp's always the one that brings up them. None of them are doing all of these things. Luffy, as someone in chat brought up, is damaging the ship. And Mary's connection with them is still so strong that without Usopp, she's gonna become sentient, eat the Mick fruit, save these motherfuckers, and then give it no repairs, mind you. So this is a Mary, because not only are you saying that connection is strong, you're also saying that Mary wasn't really at 1 HP. You're also saying Mary really wasn't at 1 HP, because this version of the Mary isn't being repaired. This version of the Mary just is already scooped. You're saying that they didn't have a connection at all? No, jackass. Thank you, Chad. I want to say no, Jack. And now that's not the same guy, by the way. But no, not at all. I'm quite literally saying that, hey, if you take out, I don't know, the most supportive person, it might not. That's what I'm saying. You took out, you make this is a more injured, less loved Mary, is what I'm getting at. And you're still saying the same thing happens, considering that ship literally couldn't do anything else, is objectively insane. It's like, if this were power scaling, I'm still in the Discord, I'm still waiting for him. But if this was like a power scaling thing, this wouldn't be a conversation. That's like if you took a character, you made them more fatigued, you made them more fatigued, more damaged, and less liked, but they would still win a fight that they probably couldn't win straight up anyway due to the power friendship. That's what you niggas are saying. It's crazy. It's crazy. They gotta be baiting. They probably are baiting. Cause that's just objectively horrible. Just an objectively horrible argument. That's just an objectively horrible argument. Yeah, he might have been baiting because now he doesn't see the, okay, there you go. All right, yeah. All right, let's see if he's baiting. There you go. There he is.
Yo, hold on one second.
Yeah, we gotta see this, Chatatrons.
All right, hello?
Yep, got a mic. There it is. What's going on, man?
What's good? So,
all right,
like,
bro, yeah. So you said that it's useless without you being able to type. Disagree.
Yeah.
But now the floor is yours. You get your shit off, no interruptions. Obviously, stick to the continuity here. But go ahead, state why you think that honestly they even make it past this arc, or if you're just saying that if you're just saying that Mary would still pull up for the Straw Hats or whatever, how and why?
Yes, I'm not saying they survived there. They definitely died there without Usopp. But I'm just saying that the Mary, like, she still becomes sentient with all of them, not just Usopp. Like, it's not about the repairs that they was making. It was about, like, how they were on the ship, how they, like, was a family on the ship. That's how I felt like Mary was sentient, not the care that... I mean, it was the care as well, but I feel like without Usopp, they would try to care for her as well. You know what I mean? Like, it would be way worse when Usopp was there, but they would still try to fix her up. And I think the Mary would really still appreciate that. That's what I'm saying.
All right, I hear what you're saying, man. So there's a couple of dangerously bad plot holes here. And I promise you, comment in yourself. Nobody's trying to embarrass you, man.
I'm just debating.
Cool.
I like anime debates, bro.
All right, first things first. And I'm glad you do. First things first. Let's say, fuck it. You are 1,000,000% correct. Mary's breaking down. Not only was Mary's love for the Straw Hats just the fact they loved each other, but Mary's breaking down other niggas are trying to fix the ship. Who the fuck is fixing the ship in the way that Usopp was fixing the ship?
No one is. I'm not saying that they're even remotely fixing it. Like, it's just the fact that they will try. Like, it will be terrible work, but the fact that they try will make Mary appreciate it.
But my point is, my point in bringing that up, before I get to my other point that I suppose is more contentious, is that without Usopp, you don't even have a chance at her becoming sentient because she's just a wrecked ship.
Okay, so you're just saying that she wouldn't even make it that far.
That's one of the many things I'm saying.
Okay.
But definitely that. Yeah, she doesn't even make it that far without Usopp there.
I agree.
Okay, all right, so cool. Now, the one that you're arguing more. Fuck it. In this timeline, the power of the Mick fruit is also part repair. She if she likes the Straw Hats enough, she will Lego build herself back together, and she'll make it there. My thing is, I don't know how, and I'm not saying that like Luffy didn't like the Mary. Nobody's saying Nami didn't like the Mary. Zoro, Sanji, none of that. They all sat there. Nami cried too. Luffy cried, right? But I think there's they even call it in real life relationships, acts of service and shit, that Usopp does for the Mary that genuinely nobody else does, to such a point that sure, this hypothetical sentient Mary could understand that they all like her as well, but there is like, I'm not saying she went just for Usopp, but my God, would he be a more than circumstantial reason for her to even become sentient, considering the fact that Usopp was like not only the main one, but at times the only one doing shit for the Mary. Everybody was out fighting. Everybody was out fucking around, robbing, shopping, all this other stuff. And Usopp's just with the Mary. Dedicated time that other people fuck like not caring about it. Because I'm not saying they would all just give the Mary the finger, but like literally not there for the Mary. On top of these things, I mean, one of the biggest fights and this is why I'm really lost, one of the biggest fights in the fucking arc is over the Mary, and half the damn, not half, everybody but Usopp is like, yeah, man, it might be time to let her go. And Usopp's like, what are you all talking about? So I just don't see the reality, and I'm gonna let you go, but I just don't see the reality that after all of that, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna say, oh no, the Mary would still slide back in a timeline where people are having conversations about replacing her and like letting her go and all that stuff without any debate whatsoever. I think that is objectively insane.
All right, so like, okay, you opened my eyes a little bit to something, but I still want to say that if Usopp wasn't there, it was like someone would still try. Like, I think, like, I know you said that they would not try to repair it, but like, I just think it defaulted to Usopp because he was the most crafty one. But if he wasn't there, it would default to someone like Robin or Chopper or something like that. They would still like really try to care for it, but they just wouldn't be as good. They would still love it, but
nah, I can't get with that because, mind you, the reason that like, and now y'all making me get in the One Piece bag that I ain't even know I had. But But no, when I disagree with that too, because when they're training or whatever and accidentally destroy stuff, it was Usopp would be like, "Hey, you're doing this. Hey, you're doing that. Stop it. Take care of the Mary type shit." And that built there. And
I forgot about those ones. I'm not gonna lie. With like, okay, yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And that built their connection to the Mary. Yeah, there's no way that we're talking about a timeline where they don't get that coach in their ear to take care and appreciate the Mary, so then they therefore do that. Without that coach, hypothetically, they're just fucking up the Mary, and you're right, they would try to repair it poorly because they're gonna fucking sink the ship, because that's what it would take before they actually like, oh shit. They're the type of niggas that like, if they had a house, scratch the wall, who cares? Bug gets in, who cares? But now if some fucking glass breaks, they're like, holy shit, okay, hey, this window's just wide ass open. That's what they would be doing. They did, I'm not, again, millionth time, for anybody that's going to try to, because it's 2025, niggas like reading between lines that when there's no space in between them. Nobody's saying that none of the Straw Hats liked the Mary in any way, shape, or form. But I'm definitely saying it took Usopp to introduce even the idea of caring for the ship. Because these niggas were just using the ship for transportation.
I will say that Usopp, he definitely had a deeper connection because it came from like his home. I don't know, man. I feel like if the Mary somehow it wouldn't make it, but if it somehow got to as far as Enies Lobby, like say like I don't know, just somehow it would still become sentient just because like it just feels a part of the family regardless of like how bad they are at repairing it. Like, it wouldn't make it that far, and I just think that's the reason why it wouldn't become sentient. But if it did, it would still have that deep connection with them. Maybe not as deep, because Usopp is like, he was like, that was his like thing. That was the Mary. But
I think you're giving a combination of Mary and the other Straw Hats way too much credibility in a timeline without Usopp. But before I let you go, because I'm gonna just wrap the video up here.
Yeah.
Who steps up then? Who is this person that steps up then? You know, you're saying.
I would say, I just think it falls to the smartest person. Maybe Robin.
So
Robin or Nami, one of them.
So you think Robin would be like this person that? I guess I don't see Robin at all. That just doesn't fit her personality. Robin definitely would be like, oh shit, this ship's kind of. Robin has the least attachment to the ship at this moment in time, and Nami. That's true. Yeah, and then Nami, I guess smartest one, sure, but Nami's the fucking navigator who's obsessed with money and shit. Nami would just be like, oh damn, this ship sucks. All right, get a new one.
I think Nami would probably put it on Chopper. Like that's what she would do. I don't think anyone else. I don't think Sanji, Zoro, or Luffy. Like they're not even the question. But yeah. Chopper, like he was kind of like, I don't know if you remember in Skypiea when he was alone with the ship. He took it very seriously to protect and repair the Mary when it was like on that
Chopper and Usopp be at the motherfucking hip. That's but I think that's mainly because Chopper and Usopp are at the hip more than. And I'm not saying Chopper doesn't love the ship, but I think that's where that bond came from. Because Usopp, like, if you like, Luffy would crack a dent in a tile and Usopp would crash out about it. But more importantly, when Chopper where are you talking about where Chopper's alone?
On Skypiea, you don't remember the moment when Zoro, Nami, and Robin and Chopper.
You talking about when he was at the little temple place and the alligators? Yeah. And shit was there? I mean, that's all respect, Mickey.
Like he was. How is that Mickey?
I mean, how is it Mickey? He kind of has to. Everyone didn't Zoro literally pat him on the head and he's like, "Yeah, man, you're in charge of the ship," and then they all just fuck off.
That's true, but like he took that responsibility seriously because he really messed with it.
If he just doesn't take it seriously, I mean, gee, we don't have a way off the island.
But that's the point. Like they really have to care for the ship for that. Like I don't know. I feel like you're like kind of like misconstruing what I'm saying. Like Chopper was like
what you're saying.
He took stabs for the Mary. Like he jumped in front of for the Mary.
Chat. I don't know if this is a W, maybe chat's bias. I don't know. Comment below. But for the sake of correcting facts, I was wrong. It wasn't Zoro that said it. It was Usopp.
I'm pretty sure it was Zoro. I'm pretty sure it was Zoro. He was like, "You're the man." He was like, "You're the man here. You're the one that look after this shit."
You know,
Like,
Zoro does say the man line, but they're saying that Usopp is the main one to tell him to like protect the ship. That's crazy. Either way, I think fucking Luffy would take that role. If anything, Luffy would take that role absurdly seriously. I don't think that's a matter of Luffy having love for the Mary.
That's what I'm saying. I think they all would. That's why I think they would have such a deep connection still.
No. Hold on. Because now ironically, you're not understanding what I'm trying to tell you. I'm saying in the term of the task being to protect the ship, I don't think it's, hey, protect the going Mary that you love so much. I think the task is literally, we need this ship to be okay so we can leave this island. One of you protect the ship. The reason why I'm saying fucking Luffy would probably be the worst one of all, because I can imagine Luffy putting on some tinfoil hat, marching up and down the stairs, dying over anybody that tries to, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like of all niggas, fuck, maybe even over Usopp here, Luffy given a simple one-to-one task would crash out over a fucking bee that land over the ship. So that's all I'm saying. I don't necessarily see. There's a lot of bonding during that scene, in my opinion, with Usopp. But I definitely don't think that it's one of them things where, oh, this showed that Chopper just OD loves the Mary. I think Chopper was just like, bro, please don't let it be me, the guy that fucked up and let the ship burn down and shit and stuff like that. But interesting debate. Surely somebody's gonna agree with you in the comments. I think you have a couple supporters in the chat. So appreciate you joining your time. I mean, appreciate you joining up. Most importantly, I want to shout you out because a lot of these comment niggas, they acted as if I don't give my viewers a chance to come up here and live debate me.
No, I appreciate that. Like,
yeah, and it's fucking annoying. A lot of you niggas type below and be like, damn, I mean, I'm not gonna debate you with your platform, and I'll be like, join up, pussies. But all right, my boy, I'm gonna fuck with you later.
I'm gonna say bring back Black Clover though before I go. All right, peace.
Take care, stay blessed. Get the fuck out of here. Record this as the epilogue. Chat, I don't think you understand how much I respect that though. So many times when I'm debating a nigga in the comment section, or at least used to before niggas start spoiling all over the place, is how many times I'll go back and forth with somebody and I'll be like, hey, just pull up to chat. We'll have this debate live. Maybe even turn it into a video. I'm not gonna debate you on your platform. What the fuck? My brother in Christ, I have debate between chatters, let alone debates between me. I just don't understand the niggas that are too pussy to actually do that shit, but that's why I don't think half of you are real. I'm the keyboard warriors. Take care, stay blessed again.